Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. We are excited about today's presentation featuring Al Gresch, Vice President of Healthcare Strategy. Al will discuss strategies to establish a skill stratification structure where you are directing your most highly trained and skilled staff's activities towards the right thing. With the ever-declining availability of qualified resources in our industry, HTM leaders are pressed more than ever to find different strategies to continue meeting customer needs and remain as cost-effective as possible. Webinar Wednesday would like to thank our sponsor, Accruent. Accruent's intelligence for the built environment aims to improve operational efficiency, regulatory compliance, and the quality of patient care, and to drive gains in performance and availability of healthcare assets, including facility and biomedical equipment. For more information, please visit accruent.com. A few announcements before we get started. If you haven't already registered for our upcoming MD Expo, please do so today. We will be in Dallas, Texas on April 16th and 17th. Our pre-show planner is available for download in the handouts section of your webinar dashboard. Please look it over and visit mdexposhow.com for details, registration, and our steps to a safe and clean meeting environment. While you're there, make sure to sign up for our newsletter so you'll always have the most up-to-date information. Let's give one lucky attendee the opportunity to win our newly designed Webinar Wednesday t-shirt by answering the following question. Who holds the title of President of Accruent? You can find the answer by visiting our sponsor's website. Please use the questions feature on the GoToWebinar dashboard to submit your answer. As always, today's webinar is eligible for one continuing education credit from the ACI. You can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey. More details on this at the end of today's webinar. We will wrap up today's presentation with a live Q&A. You can submit your questions at any time during the webinar by using the questions feature on the webinar dashboard. We'll get through as many questions as time allows. As I mentioned earlier, our presenter today is Al Gresch. Stephanie Leontis will provide a brief introduction to Al. Stephanie, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Webinar Wednesday. As Jennifer mentioned, today's session will focus on effective HTM skill stratification and how to optimize your program by applying the appropriate skill level to the right activities. And now I would like to introduce today's speaker, Al Gresch. Al is Vice President of Healthcare Strategy at Accruent and has held executive leadership roles at AlphaSource, TriMedics, and Alexian Brothers Health System. He led one of the nation's premier clinical engineering programs at Aurora Healthcare in Milwaukee and has been the past chair of the AMI Healthcare Technology Leadership Committee. In addition, he authored the 2019 Healthcare Technology Management Manual for AMI. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Al.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Jennifer, for those wonderful introductions. You guys did a great job of introducing the topic of today, so I won't need to do that again. So we'll jump right in. Our agenda for today is we're going to start by talking about the challenges facing the industry. I'm sure that many of you have seen some of these challenges affecting you, especially this past year with COVID. We're going to talk about how to identify the different levels of activities your team is engaged in and what skill levels are required for each, and how to determine that, how to partner with HR to develop the optimum structure within your organization, how to set up a plan to appropriately direct activities to the right people, how to develop a career ladder, succession planning tactics, and then we'll talk about some industry resources that are available to all of you. So let's go ahead and jump in. We'll start with challenges facing the industry. So for this, I think, like I said, we're all aware of the declining availability of qualified staff due to baby boomers moving toward retirement. But I reached out to the 24/7 publications over the past 2 years to bring some statistics to this that we could take a look at. So from those publications, in the 2019 issue, aging of the workforce was identified as the biggest challenge affecting the HTM field. Average age of survey respondents was 49 years, the same as it was in 2018, and 33% were 55 and older, and only 17% 35 and under. But also what was called out in that article was an excessive increase in workload was causing 31% of respondents to look for other opportunities, and that's pretty alarming. Also, a quote from that 2019 article, one respondent said, "Old timers are being replaced with warm bodies. An associate's degree in biomed has gone by the wayside, lengthening the time it takes for newcomers to come up to speed. I think there's going to be a void real soon." And then as a follow-up to that, in 2020, still a lack of young people entering the HTM field is a major concern. The average age of respondents was 49 and a half years versus 49 from the previous two. The number of respondents 55 and older jumped up to 40%, and the number of respondents under 35 dropped to 14%. So those aren't good trends to be seeing. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to attend the NB Expo Mixer in the HTM Mixer in Milwaukee last October, but I attended a session that Dave Francoeur put on, and what he stated was, if you think you're going to be able to continue operating the way you always have been, you're mistaken, because that's not sustainable. We must look at doing things differently. Daniel McGeary, who's the vice president of HTM for Amy, I reached out to her to get a number of the school closings in the last year, and what I got directly from her was, in the last year, DeVry eliminated their biomedical technology program. When she made the BMET school list from the year before, DeVry biomedical technology program was only available in 7 of their 47 locations, and now they've eliminated the program everywhere. That, coupled with Springfield Technical Community College in Massachusetts and Southeastern Community College in Iowa closing, that makes 9 BMET school closings in the last year. Now, it's not all bad. GE opened its College of HTM in July of 2019 here in Waukesha, Wisconsin, but at the time that was available only to GE employees, and as far as I know, they haven't opened it up to anyone outside of that. The development of Amy's apprenticeship program, along with increased efforts to promote the field at the high school level, will help, but it won't solve the problem anytime soon. It's going to get much worse before it gets better. But enough of the gloom and doom. How do we address it? So let's move on to talk about how to identify the different levels of activities your team is engaged in and what skill levels are required for each. So this was a staff competency report that I put together back when I was running an in-house program, and all of you should have a similar document that has a listing of all your staff, where they are, what their primary level or what their primary focus or responsibility is, secondary, tertiary, and then what the proposed assignment might be for that individual. And I'll talk much more in depth as far as how to incorporate this process into your annual performance review process. And then we built out a competency assessment form, and I'm going to go through this in a little bit more detail. So this constituted 5 different levels of rating for each competency. Level 1 was you demonstrate little or no knowledge of the task subject and cannot work independently. I think the important reason to call this part out is this is as much a protection for the staff as it is for you, making sure that the people that are doing certain types of work are qualified to do so. Level 2 expresses that the person demonstrates general knowledge of the task subject and may work under direct supervision. Level 3 indicates that this person demonstrates working knowledge of the task or subject and may work independently. Level 4, the person demonstrates advanced knowledge of the task subject and consistently works independently. And then level 5, the person demonstrates a high level of expertise and the ability to provide technical support, can instruct, and can assess others. So, there are instances where, we had technicians that were at a level 5 that were able to assess other technicians on their level of competency. You can see on this form, the first part of it just covers, very, very rudimentary core competencies, things like, hand tools, power tools, safe work practices, device safety testing. You can see how old this is because it includes oscilloscope, and I don't know too many people that still use an oscilloscope. But then it moves into core competencies on biomedical theory, biomedical test equipment, general biomedical devices, and then goes into some more specialized biomedical equipment. Here we had infant care equipment because we had a pretty expansive NICU and women's health program, patient monitoring networks, and advanced repairs on patient monitoring networks, basic respiratory equipment, and then moved into some biomedical specialty areas, advanced respiratory equipment, anesthesia, sterilization, surgical tables and lights, medical lasers, and then finally moved into imaging theory and competency on imaging devices. That both starting with the lower level of general rad, RNF, mammography, portables, C-arms, but then moving up to more complex systems like CTs, MRIs, RNF systems, linear accelerators, interventional radiology, things like cath labs, ultrasound systems and vascular systems. And then this is something that we did every year to track people's progress. It aligned well with both their goals and your goals or our goals as a department. And so this became part of our annual performance review process. So now that you have a good assessment of your team, you completed that assessment, you can assess your inventory and the skills required to support that inventory. And I'm not talking about just the inventory that you currently support in-house. I would suggest that you look at all of it. You look at the stuff that you're doing in-house. You look at contracted services, and that's both the high-end equipment. If you contract out most or all of your imaging equipment, but even some other specialty devices that you contract out. But also looking at outsourced low-end inventory, because if you just collect up those things and send them out for service after you reach a certain number of devices in the shop, then you want to look at that as well. because there may be opportunities there. So as far as a business plan goes, and I'm not going to cover today how to build out a business plan, although if you're interested, I did publish an article in BINT back in March of 2010 that goes into much more detail about how to build out a business plan. But this is just the key strategies from the business plan that I did build out, and you'll see in here that there are a number of things that we wanted to move toward. Number one, developing an in-house support for high-end modalities, completing the development of in-house support for anesthesia, laser, sterilizer, imaging, and so on. And there are a number of other things here, but the two in particular that I want to call out that are germane to our discussion today is number three, develop aid or assistant positions and work to push high tech services to more experienced techs while migrating low-end, low-tech services to non-degreed positions. And I'll show you an example of a job description that we created for that. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today, and what really the topic is the skills stratification. What I've seen happening in some departments is there's a single position or job description for a biomed tech, and that covers everybody from an entry-level position to somebody that's been in the industry for 35, 40 years. And along with that, you'll see $30,000 to $40,000 range in salary, and that's just not a good way to manage things. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to work with your HR department to expand that out. And then if you jump down to 9, complete the development of depot services. And so, some of that low-end equipment is very well managed by setting up depot services for that equipment. And because even if you send those things out, it takes people's time to pick them up and arrange for shipping and following up on that and getting it back where it belongs. So if you set up a depot service and you set it up in such a way that the appropriate level of technician is handling that, it frees up your more experienced technicians to do the type of work that's much more in line with what their skill level is. So let's move to that, talking about how to partner with HR to develop an optimum structure. So I would ask these questions, both of yourself and of your HR group. Are we confident that we can consistently recruit new talent and retain the talent that we have? You go back to the challenge slide where I talked about there are 31% of people that were disgruntled with the amount of work that they had piled on them, and subsequently we're looking at opportunities elsewhere. Is that a situation that exists in your organization? How prepared are you if someone were to leave your organization? And one of the things that I want to call out here is that typically what happens is if you, let's say you have a Tech 2 retire, your first inclination is to post a position for another Tech 2 and just replace that position and plug that person into that vacated role. And what I always challenge people to do, and strongly recommend that they do, is to take a step back and look at what's most needed at that particular point in time in your organization. Are there opportunities that you could use that open position to take advantage of and realign things? So and we'll talk about a lot of ways that you can do that and prepare for it before we're done with our session today. So when you talk to your HR folks, discuss the industry trends. Make sure that they're aware of the things that are happening, so the statistics that I shared earlier. and you know, just don't find yourself in a position where you know you've gone through a year of pain trying to backfill a position and are unable to do so before you take action. And I would suggest that you be proactive with your HR group and say, look, here's what's going to happen. Here's evidence of that happening, and I want to get out in front of it. And I'll just tell you, that's going to say a lot about you as a leader if you are proactive and you know, taking these things head on. Next, identify the benefits to the organization, right? So if you end up in a situation where you have a vacated position for an extended period of time, what are your alternatives? Well, your alternatives are to outsource that work while you're trying to fill that position. But if your business plan includes creating some higher level position, you know, have some financial analyses around, you know, what that could bring to your organization from a cost savings perspective. And you know, having gone through this many times myself, what I found is that we could provide the same level or better service than we were paying somebody else to do for 60% of what that cost was. And you know, that's exactly how we got to a 4% cost to service ratio across the entire organization, literally doing all imaging support in-house, with the exception of the Gamma knife and the Cyber knife. And then lastly, make it as easy on them as possible. Now, what I mean by that, you know, they're going to be looking at this and thinking, man, this is going to be a huge investment of our time to develop these job descriptions and you know, get the salary ranges approved. You know, there's a lot of that work that was already done by Amy, their job description task force. And so lean on those resources, and I'll be sharing some of those resources with you all before we're done today. And then I'm also going to walk through a number of job descriptions that I had within my organization. And I'm happy to share those with you. At the last slide today is going to include my email address, and if any of the stuff we cover off on today you're interested in having copies of, I'm more than happy to send this out. And don't wait to do this stuff. You know, evolution takes time, but you must start the process. In the first organization that I worked in, you know, I was one of the first technicians. We had two positions. We started out with just a supervisor and one technician position, but then we moved to two, and then to three, and eventually six technician positions, 4 biomed, 2 imaging. But we also had other positions within the organization in an effort to offload the non-technical work from the technicians. And so we also ended up with 3 analyst positions, a report specialist, customer service assistant, an admin, director, regional manager, lead, and supervisor, parts procurement specialist, and a service contract and lease specialist, and 2 levels within that. So lots of opportunities to you know, take on more responsibility and grow and bring more value to your organization as a result. So again, it's important to identify those benefits to the organization and then share with them, you know, all of these templates that they can work off of to make it easy for them. So what we're looking at now is the biomedical equipment assistant position, and this was an entry-level position that we created that was below a Tech 1, and so the salary range was lower than that, and it was a non-degreed position. And if you focus here on the position purpose, it states performs technical work in the installation, maintenance, and repair of simple, routine, electromechanical, diagnostic and therapeutic medical devices. And so these are the kinds of things that if you bring somebody on that has a good electromechanical knowledge and aptitude, there are quite a few things that you can train those individuals to do at a much lower cost than having a more skilled person do that. I'm telling you, if you've got a 30-year tenured technician doing flow meters and blenders and infusion pumps, that is not a good way to do business, and you'll price yourself out of business by doing that. And then you'll see here under essential functions, under the phrase under general supervision and what they do. And like I said, I'm happy to share these job descriptions with anybody who's interested. So this next one is for a Tech 1, and here the position purpose calls out that they perform simple to moderately complex technical work. Again, under general supervision. But one other thing that I want to call out here is all of the positions, Tech 1 and above, include this line item in the job description, that they act as a resource on more technical issues and mentor the biomedical assistants to help them grow in ability, responsibility, and experience. And you'll see that that same comment for Tech 2, but you know, they're acting as a resource and mentoring both biomed assistants and Tech 1s, and so on and so forth, all the way up to the highest level position. What this does for you is it helps promote the idea of team within your organization, and it helps to build new leaders. So that's key, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the succession planning discussion. So here's a biomedical equipment Tech 2. Here again, looking at the position purpose, independently performs skilled technical work. So here, again, skilled technical work. And again, you'll see the line item for acting as a resource. Tech 3, here it performs highly skilled technical and advisory work. And here is an imaging Tech 1, and the same kind of verbiage here. We're perform skilled technical and advisory work. And then the Biomed Imaging Tech 2 performs highly skilled technical and advisory work. If you go back to that competency checklist that we went through, or that competency assessment form, you know, you'll see some of the things that would differentiate between the Imaging Tech 1 and Imaging Tech 2 positions, and the biomedical positions as well. So how do you set up a plan to appropriately direct activities to the right people? So you simply leverage the work that you already put in place, right? So you assess your inventory, and the skills required to support that inventory. And as we talked about, you do that for in-house contracted services and outsourced low-end inventory. Now I want to talk about how to build or how to develop a career ladder. So this is something that we put together, and if you look at the objectives, it's specifically built to acknowledge an individual's performance and accomplishments, set expectations for future performance, provide tangible link to job descriptions, standards, and performance, provide career growth opportunities, support recruitment and retention of CE technicians, and direct efforts for attaining department goals. And there's a couple of things I want to specifically call out under operations of the career ladder. This included all levels of both biomed and biomed imaging technicians, but you'll see in a couple of the subsequent slides, it also included our support positions. And so there were career paths for our analysts and report specialists and admin folks as well. We would consideration for promotion is based on department needs and all promotional considerations being met. Again, we didn't promote people just to get them to a higher level. There were specific competencies that they needed to meet, and then subsequently, they were directed toward some higher level activities. There's a book that I've shared with a number of folks called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And the premise of that book is that when you're promoted to a higher level position, the expectations change, right? And if you're doing just the exact same thing that you were doing before, then it's not really a promotion, is it? And so that's a book by Marshall Goldsmith that I would recommend to anyone who has achieved a higher level position at any level. So the other things that we did here is we committed to communicating promotional opportunities to the technicians. The interested technicians were compelled to present evidence of meeting the stated criteria of that position, written narrative, including examples of achievement for each element was required. The criteria we evaluated on a periodic basis. And if you're striving to continually improve and always do better year over year, you should expect that those criteria will change. And so then annually at performance review time, the technicians were expected to present evidence that demonstrated that they continue to meet standards established for their current level. And like I said, those criteria could change year over year. Again, if you're somebody that wants to continually improve, that should be the case. And then we included this bullet here, but I will tell you that we never had to employ that because we had developed a culture where everyone wanted to get better and grow in their career. But we did include this at a statement that said, technicians who did not continue to meet the criteria for their current level will have goals set with the intent to reach that next level. But failure to accomplish those goals within 90 days will be considered a voluntary decision by the technician to no longer remain at that level, and will result in a demotion. Like I said, we never had to employ that, but it was something that we felt it was important to call out. And then this last one, I really want to emphasize: promotion via career ladder is not dependent on years of employment. Rather, it is dependent on documented performance and development as stipulated herein. And then the considerations were leadership, performance improvement, initiative, compliance with clinical engineering's data integrity policy, their technical competence, communication effectiveness, compliance with clinical engineering policies and procedures, and personal and professional development. You want this type of a culture in your organization if you're going to maximize the value that you bring, not only to your organization, but to provide opportunities for your staff as well. And then here's just a diagram of the career ladder. This particular one is at the technical level, where you could move up from a biomed assistant to a tech 1, then to a tech 2, tech 3. All of those could then move into an imaging tech 1 position if they had the skills and ability to do so, and there was a position available for them to move into, and then up to an imaging tech 2 and a lead, and also a couple of other analyst opportunities. And then, certainly opportunities for those folks to move into leadership if they're so inclined to do so. Not everybody has an interest in moving into leadership roles, but for those that do, there are opportunities. I'll tell you that one of the things that drove this for us is when I put together that 5-year business plan, and it included bringing in-house all of this outsourced service, we had to deliver in a very short period of time, and it pained me to have to hire people from the outside in order to fill those high-level positions. And I told my leadership group that I didn't ever want to do that again. What I wanted to set up was a structure where there were opportunities for internal promotions, and ideally get to the point where the only positions that we ever hired were entry-level positions. And then when a position opened up, we would have done the groundwork to prepare others to move up into those roles, and it would cascade down again, so that the only positions that we ever hired were entry-level positions. And we did actually get to that point. And I think you can imagine what that did from an employee engagement perspective. We had people that were waiting for an opening so that they could come to work by us, and we had become the employer of choice in the region because of it. Here's just a more simplified career ladder for the admin position. So even an administrative assistant or a customer service assistant had the ability to learn and grow and develop into these other roles. So let's talk about succession planning tactics. Again, I talked about the first step in that of having a business plan. That's key. To have a vision of where you want to go as a department, and like I said, there's an article that I published in 2010 in BINT that goes through that in detail. But there's a lot of other resources that you can lean into for doing that. Also in the past, I worked with some of my finance people to help me with that. And then whatever your business plan is should then drive your annual department goals, right? And I mean, it's just a very easy connection to make. Those annual department goals are set up in such a way that they're going to help you get to the targets that you lay out in your 5-year business plan. And then you're going to incorporate some processes within your annual performance reviews. And I think that's key, and goes back to the idea that you make that an expectation of your staff to talk about those things. I can remember having discussions, goals discussions with a number of people, and what I heard from them was, well, just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. And I responded, look, I'm sorry, that's not how this works. This isn't my career, it's yours. You need to take some responsibility for it. If I give you the opportunity to do whatever you want to do, why wouldn't you take it? And if they didn't want to take it, for me, it raised questions about that individual and what their motivations were, if they had any, right? So I think it's fair to ask, what are your goals and aspirations, and where do you want to be in 5 years? So in 2020, Amy published this Htm Succession Planning guide, and I was on a subcommittee of the Healthcare Technology Leadership Committee that helped build this out. So it was myself and Angela Bennett from TriMedics, Doug Dreps from Mercy Health, Daniel McGeary at Amy, and Mark Woods from Cheshire Medical Center. We spent quite a bit of time building this out and came up with a really good template that you can use to make this easier in succession planning. And like it says here, a succession plan will provide a clear roadmap into the future. It will help avoid making impulse decisions in an emergency staffing situation. This guide and template will help you create that plan. And so here is that template, and so here you can see in the first column is BMET Betty, and Betty is currently a BMET 2, and her specialty training skills are on the V60 ventilator. Her possible next role is a BMET 3, and she's ready to move now. And some of the key competencies for the next role are anesthesia and medical device networking. The necessary training and development for that is anesthesia machine technical service school and networking course. And here we documented Betty's aspirations, which is to become a BMET 3 within 1 to 2 years, and would like to be considered for BMET manager within 5 to 7 years. Now, when I did this kind of thing in my organizations, we timed this out in a way that that worked perfectly. So the annual performance review process took place early in the year, the first 3 months of the calendar year, so that we had all of this information readily available well in advance of when we started our annual budget, operating budget process. And so, if there was training that we needed to account for in our budget, we had the information to be able to do that. You look at the next example. So Supervisor Seth, his current role, BMET Supervisor. He has specialty training in medical device networking and employee mentoring. His possible next role is as an HTM manager, ready to move in 1 to 2 years. Where he needs some help and some of the key competencies is in financial and business acumen, and so the necessary training and development, training and mentoring on the deeper aspects of budgeting and financial considerations. And Seth's aspirations are he'd like to become an HTM manager in 1 to 2 years and plans to retire in 8 years. Well, 8 years is a long time. Seth can accomplish quite a bit in that period of time, so well worth investing. And then actually Seth can become a person that helps mentor other people into similar roles. So I want to just touch on some industry resources that are available. I touched on these early. The first is Amy's Career Planning Handbook. And that this is a resource for HTM professionals at all levels. But then there's also the Leadership Development Guide. These are for people who aspire to move into leadership roles. And I think what's contained in both of these is an important 6-step process that you'll find in literally any situation where you're looking to improve and advance, whether it's you personally or whether it's your department. And step 1 is to determine your goals, both short and long term. Step 2 is to identify your needs, what skills, knowledge, and expertise are needed. Step 3 is assess your current state. Which of these do I already have? Step 4 is to identify the gaps. Which of these do I still need? Step 5 is to create the plan to fill those gaps. And then step 6 is work the plan. Another resource to shamelessly plug the publication that I had written for Amy is the Healthcare Technology Management Manual. A lot of the stuff that I talked about today is contained in that book in much greater detail. I talked about the succession planning guide as another resource that you can lean on. And with that, I will open it up to Q&A.
Thank you so much, Al, for a great presentation. We do have some questions that have come in, and as a reminder to our audience, if you would like to ask a question, please use the questions feature on your GoToWebinar dashboard. Our first question is, you have outlined the challenges facing the field with regard to being able to backfill positions. How do you think we can take on additional responsibilities like imaging services in light of those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question, and how you do that is exactly what we talked about today. Is you know, you create a position for non-degreed staff, and you know, there are people that I know would be interested in jumping into a role like that. It's a great job. I actually, in my past, shortly after we developed those positions, I actually had a maintenance technician apply for and was given that role because he liked what he saw the folks on my team doing, and was very interested in moving in that direction. So, you know, that's first and foremost is to offload anything that you can from your higher end technicians, and I'm not talking about just technical work. I'm also talking about administrative work. So I mentioned that we created a position for a parts procurement specialist because all of my technicians were spending time sourcing and ordering their own parts. And when we did a time motion study, we found that they were spending an hour per technician per day on that activity. And of course, I had 80 technicians at the time. That was a lot of time. And so I had an open tech position that I chose not to fill with the tech, but I hired I created a position for, posted and hired a parts procurement specialist. And what that did for me is it made each one of my technicians more productive. When we started this whole process, we were about where the rest of the industry is today, which is about 1,000 annual device hours per technician. When I left the first organization I was in, we had jumped that up to over 1,500 annual device hours per technician. So that's how you do that. And if you create a culture and an environment where people want to come to work for you, I will tell you, we filled a lot of those positions by hiring engineers from the OEM. And you know, what's great about that is from our end user perspective, in many cases, they had the same guy turning the wrench on that device that was doing it before, except that now he worked for us.
All right, our next question is, one of the things my staff enjoys is the variety of equipment they get to work on. If I create a team of specialists, don't you think that will be a dissatisfier?
Yeah, I hear that comment quite a bit. You know, and actually going back to the salary survey, one of the things that was called out as a satisfier was the variety of equipment. But what I'll say to that is, even with specialties, you're going to have a variety of things that you're going to be working on. But I'll also call out the fact that if given a choice to be a jack of all trades and master of none, to be an expert on a particular device or group of devices, I don't know too many people that wouldn't choose the latter. And I will tell you that that created a lot of job satisfaction among the staffs that I had in the past.
Thank you. Our next question is, I've tried to get my HR department to develop more positions in the past and hit a brick wall. What can I do if I get the same response again?
Yeah, so I will tell you that I experienced the same thing, and I would just suggest that you be persistent, and sometimes the message falls on deaf ears because it's the wrong message. Sometimes it falls on deaf ears because it's the wrong set of ears. And so the reason that I talked about the importance of building out a business plan and including the benefits that it's going to bring to the organization, you can start out by having those discussions with your own leadership group and your finance group and get their support. And when the request to HR comes along with those folks standing with you, you're going to stand a much better chance of success.
Our next question is, I work with local colleges to promote the field. How is Amy promoting the field at that level?
Yeah, actually, there's been a lot of work that's been done. I am very impressed with the work that Danielle McGeary has done since she's taken the position that she's in. But they've created a lot of collateral that the local biomed associations can use in taking to the high schools. They've created some videos. Amy just got approval for their apprenticeship program. I think that's going to be an amazing thing to help deal with this problem. But again, as I said before, all of these things are going to take time. The solution isn't going to be a flip of the switch and all of a sudden we have the problem solved. But it's important that we all start now. So I think we all appreciate the fact that you are working with your local community colleges and promoting the field. I think all of us need to be doing that. And with that, if you need some of that collateral and resources, reach out to Amy, and I'm sure they'll be able to provide you quite a bit.
All right, our next question says, what would you recommend for employees who are impatient to get into more advanced roles? There is inevitably one person in every department that thinks that they are ready to be a supervisor or anesthesia technician without the organizational knowledge or technical education, respectively.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a huge risk here and call out the fact that seems to be an inherent trait with millennials. Okay, I've seen it many times in many areas of my own company, and I think how you do that is exactly what I talked about, to create a structure around competencies and what it takes to get to that next level, and then it's apparent to everyone, right? It's like, look, if I want to get to that next level, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, okay, I've been in the field for a year, I should be able to get promoted to the next level. And it's like, well, that's not how it works. And if somebody came into my organization, that would be part of the orientation and onboarding process to show them, the career ladder, what it takes to get to that next level, and there has to be a business need. Now, the one thing I will call out is, there's a challenge that's incumbent on the leader to create those opportunities, right? And I, there are many things that that there are opportunities to go after, and a big part of identifying those things is to create that business plan and figure out what you would need to get there. And on the slide that's on the screen, you'll see my email address on there, and I'm happy to have discussions with anybody that wants to talk further about this, and anybody that wants any of the documents that I shared. I'm happy to provide. So, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to work with and talk with anybody to help them move things forward.
Thank you so much, Al, for your time today and for a great presentation. I'd like to encourage everyone to visit today's sponsor to learn more about the services they provide to our industry. Visit accruent.com. A quick reminder that you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey. The survey will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 CE credit from the ACI, and you will be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. We will be back next week with another webinar. Visit webinarwednesday.live for more details and complimentary registration. Thank you all and have a great day.